sign she's testing you. Most men fail this. There are moments in conversations with women that seem small on the surface, but carry a lot more meaning underneath. A slight change in tone, a playful challenge, a delayed reply, or even a simple comment that feels a little unexpected. Most men either ignore these moments completely or react to them emotionally. And that's exactly why they fail them. Because what looks like a random behavior is often a moment where your mindset is being revealed, not in a formal or calculated way, but naturally. It's not always about testing you directly. It's about observing how you handle pressure, uncertainty, and small shifts in interaction. At the beginning, everything feels easy. You're relaxed, you're not overthinking, and you're not trying too hard. Your responses are natural, your energy is steady, and you're not focused on controlling the outcome. But as soon as you become more invested, your awareness increases. You start noticing things you didn't notice before. The timing of replies, the tone of messages, the level of interest. And slowly, your behavior starts to change. One of the most common situations is when she delays her response. Before, she was replying quickly, and now there's a gap. Maybe it's an hour, maybe it's longer. And in that moment, your mind starts working. You begin to question the situation. You check your phone more often. You reread your last message. You start wondering if something changed. And eventually, you feel the urge to send another message. Not because you have something important to say, but because you feel uncomfortable waiting. That reaction reveals something important. It shows that your emotional state is tied to her response. It shows that you are reacting instead of staying grounded. A more controlled response is simple. You send a message and you move on. You don't sit there waiting. You don't let the delay control your mood. You return to your life and your priorities, because your day does not depend on a reply. Another common situation is when she challenges you. She might disagree with you, tease you, or say something that questions your confidence. It might sound like a joke, but there's a moment of pressure in it. Most men react by trying to prove themselves. They explain more, they defend their point, they try to win the interaction. But in doing that, they reveal that they feel the need to be validated. A stronger response is calm. You don't rush to defend yourself. You don't take it personally. You respond lightly, or you simply express your view without tension. Because you're not trying to win approval. You're just expressing yourself. And that difference changes how your presence is felt. Then there's the situation where she becomes inconsistent. One day she's engaged, responsive, and interested. The next day, she feels distant. And that inconsistency creates confusion. Because your mind wants stability. It wants something predictable. So when that's missing, you start trying to figure it out. You analyze every message. You look for meaning in small details. And slowly, you lose your center. What matters here is not the inconsistency itself, but your reaction to it. If you adjust your behavior every time her energy changes, you become reactive. You lose your stability. But if you remain consistent, if your behavior does not depend on hers, you maintain control of the situation. And that consistency is what stands out. Another moment that many men fail is when she pulls back slightly after things have been going well. The conversation was flowing, the connection felt strong, and suddenly there's less effort. Most men try to fix this immediately. They increase effort. They try to bring the energy back. They send more messages. They become more available. But this creates pressure, because now, instead of the interaction being natural, it becomes forced. A more grounded response is to notice the change without reacting emotionally. You don't chase the previous energy. You maintain your pace. You allow space to exist. Because sometimes stepping back is what allows things to stabilize. And try to force things back often does the opposite. There are also moments where she might ignore a message or leave you unread. This is where many men lose control completely. They feel disrespected, they feel confused, and they react. They send another message, sometimes with a different tone, sometimes trying to act like it doesn't matter. But underneath, there's tension. A stronger approach is simple. You don't react immediately. You don't double text out of discomfort. You let it be, because not every situation needs a reaction. And reacting to everything lowers your control over the interaction. What all these situations have in common is pressure, small moments where your response matters more than the situation itself. And most men fail not because they don't understand what's happening, but because they react emotionally instead of staying grounded. At the core of everything is this: your behavior under uncertainty reveals your mindset. When things are easy, anyone can appear confident. Anyone can seem relaxed. But when things become unclear, when there is space, when there is inconsistency, that's when your real habits show. If you chase, you reveal dependency. If you over-explain, you reveal insecurity. If you react emotionally, you lose control. But if you stay calm, if you remain consistent, if you don't let small changes affect your behavior, you show stability. And stability is what stands out. At the end of the day, these moments are not really about passing or failing a test in the way most men think. They are not formal challenges designed to trick you or make you lose. They are natural situations where your mindset becomes visible without you trying to explain it. They reveal how you think, how you handle pressure, and how stable you are when things are not perfectly clear. Because when everything is going smoothly, when the energy is consistent and the attention is mutual, it is easy to feel confident. It is easy to respond calmly. It is easy to appear in control. But that version of confidence does not mean much because it has not been tested. The real difference shows up when things change, when responses slow down, when behavior becomes inconsistent, when there's silence, or when something feels slightly off. Those are the moments where most people lose control, not because the situation is serious, but because they are not comfortable with uncertainty. And that is where your response becomes everything. Not the situation itself, not what she said or did, but how you handle it internally and externally. Because your reaction determines whether you stay grounded or become reactive. It determines whether you maintain your self-respect or slowly give it away through overthinking and over-adjusting. When you start reacting to every small shift, you lose your center. You begin to depend on external behavior to feel stable. You wait for replies to feel calm. You look for consistency to feel secure. And without realizing it, your mindset becomes tied to something you cannot control. But when you shift your focus back to yourself, everything starts to change. You begin to understand that not every delay needs a follow-up. Not every change needs to be analyzed. Not every moment of silence needs to be filled. Some things are better left alone, because reacting to them too quickly often creates problems that were not there in the first place. And this is where real control comes in. Not controlling the situation, but controlling your response to it. You stay consistent even when things feel uncertain. You remain calm even when there is a lack of clarity. You don't rush to fix things that have not actually broken. And that level of patience creates a completely different presence. Because now, instead of being someone who reacts, you become someone who observes. Instead of chasing stability, you carry it with you. And that shift is powerful because it changes how everything around you responds. Your energy becomes less pressured, less reactive, and more grounded. And that grounded presence is what stands out the most. Over time, this way of handling situations creates something deeper than just attraction. It builds respect. Because people can sense when someone is not easily shaken, when someone does not lose control under small amounts of pressure, and when someone does not need constant reassurance to remain steady. And once you reach that point, something important happens. You stop seeing these moments as tests that you need to pass. You stop trying to perform correctly. You stop overthinking every response. And instead, you operate from a place of awareness and control. You understand what matters and what doesn't. You know when to engage and when to step back. You know how to maintain your position without forcing anything. Because in the end, what defines you is not how you act when everything is perfect. It is how you act when things are uncertain, when energy shifts, and when you don't have all the answers. That is where your mindset is revealed. That is where your habits show. And that is where the difference between reacting and staying grounded becomes clear. And when you consistently choose to stay grounded, to remain calm, and to not let small situations pull you out of your center, You naturally separate yourself from the majority of people who react without thinking. You become more stable, more controlled, and more aware. And that combination, more than anything else, is what makes your presence stronger in every interaction.
Follow for more if you want to understand women better.